On November 18th, 2022, in Austin, Texas, a horrific murder shocked the community. Evelyn Harper, tired from a long day at work, returned home hoping to find the usual peace. Instead, she walked into her worst nightmare. In the dim light of the late afternoon, she froze as she saw her husband, Jacob Carter, in the arms of her best friend, Lauren Bishop. The image of betrayal was like a knife stabbing her heart. Anger and pain exploded into uncontrollable rage, driving Evelyn to an action she never expected. With bloodshot eyes and rapid breathing, Evelyn attacked Lauren in a desperate fit, resulting in a fatal outcome. A police investigation quickly began, drawing the curiosity of the entire city of Austin. The dark secrets of the affair are exposed, but questions about the true motives and what led to the incident remain unanswered. Was this just a moment of losing control of a betrayed woman, or is there something more sinister behind this story? Evelyn Harper was born and raised in Austin, Texas, in a loving and warm family. As the only daughter in the family, she was carefully cared for and raised by her parents. From a young age, Evelyn showed a strong, intelligent, and ambitious personality. Throughout her school years, she was always loved by her friends and teachers, not only because of her academic excellence, but also because of her friendliness and openness. When she grew up, Evelyn decided to pursue a career in finance. She quickly advanced in her career and gained the respect of her colleagues thanks to her discipline and outstanding leadership skills. With a stable life, Evelyn always balances her career and personal life. People around her admire her success and independence. Jacob Carter, Evelyn's husband, is an ambitious and successful businessman. The two met at a major financial event in Austin and quickly fell in love. Jacob impressed Evelyn with his intelligence, confidence, and thoughtfulness. After a period of romantic dating, they decided to get married. Their wedding took place perfectly in 2018, witnessed by family, friends, and everyone's blessings. Their married life seemed perfect, with plans for a bright future together, building a home in Austin. Besides Jacob, Lauren Bishop, Evelyn's best friend since college, is an indispensable part of her life. Evelyn and Lauren met while studying at the University of Texas and quickly became close friends. They shared everything with each other, from happy moments to difficult times in life. Lauren was someone Evelyn trusted completely, like a sister she never had. The relationship between the two was so close that Evelyn always thought that nothing could break this friendship. Lauren also often visited Evelyn and Jacob's house. The three of them often held cozy dinner parties, went out, and traveled together. Everyone around admired the friendship between Evelyn and Lauren, as well as the happy relationship between Evelyn and Jacob. No one could have guessed that, behind those intimate meetings, a secret relationship between Jacob and Lauren had secretly arisen. November 18th, 2022, Evelyn Harper decided to leave the office earlier than usual after a tiring day at work in Austin, Texas. The mild autumn afternoon air brought her a sense of peace, but there was a vague unease in her heart. Over the past few weeks, she had noticed something was not right between Jacob, her husband, and Lauren, her best friend from college. The furtive glances, the strange dates without a satisfactory explanation, and the mysterious absences from both of them made her suspicious. Evelyn drove home in a restless mood, trying to reassure herself that maybe things weren't as bad as she imagined. But the unease kept creeping up on her, like waves silently crashing on the shore, inescapable. As she entered the house, she noticed an eerie silence. There was no trace of Jacob's familiar footsteps or Lauren's laughter. The air was drained, heavy and stifling. Evelyn walked down the hallway, her steps light but her heart heavy. As she approached the bedroom, she heard a strange sound, like a low, broken moan. Anxiety began to rise inside her, choking her. The bedroom door was ajar. A dim light filtered out from the narrow opening, along with the sound now clearer, the unmistakable sounds of intimacy. Evelyn stopped, her heart clenched in her chest, a sense of shock and trepidation taking over her body. She stood there, breathing deeply, trying to get her thoughts together. She dared not move forward, but her feet seemed unable to resist whatever awaited her beyond the door. Evelyn placed her hand on the doorknob, feeling the cold metal touch her skin. She gently pushed the door open, and immediately everything around her collapsed. Before her eyes, in the room that was once filled with happy memories of the couple, was an unacceptable scene. Jacob, the man she once loved with all her heart, was lying on the bed with Lauren, her best friend whom she had always trusted. Their naked bodies were entwined, their heavy breathing and sweat glistening under the dim light, making the scene even more painful. The scene was like a knife stabbing straight into Evelyn's heart. Both Lauren and Jacob were startled when they saw her standing there. Lauren quickly pulled the blanket up to cover her body, her eyes filled with panic. Jacob also froze for a moment, his eyes sparkling with a bit of fear when he met Evelyn's eyes. But to Evelyn, this moment seemed endless. She could hear nothing but the pounding of her own heart. She felt everything around her disappear, leaving only the naked betrayal before her eyes. Her body was numb, without feeling, but her heart was bleeding. She couldn't tear her eyes away from the scene, couldn't accept that the two people she trusted the most could do this to her, in the home she had built with love and trust. Anger began to burn inside her, like a wildfire that could not be extinguished. Every emotion surged, every pain, every disappointment, the collapse of the world she had believed in. Evelyn felt like she was being swept up in a raging storm, out of control. Anger and pain surged through Evelyn like an uncontrollable fire. The image of betrayal was clear in her mind, etched into every corner of her soul. The trust, love, and security she had felt vanished in an instant, leaving a complete collapse. No longer able to maintain her composure, Evelyn was like a person driven by the most intense emotions. She could not control, could not think, only acted on instinct. Every breath became heavy. Every step she took echoed in the silent house. In her mind, there was no room for reason, only a storm of anger tearing at her veins. Evelyn rushed into the kitchen, as if caught in the storm. She did not think much as her eyes fell on the knives lying on the shelf. Her hands trembled as she grasped the handles, feeling the cold and sharp blade on her fingertips. Her eyes were wide, dazed but determined as she returned to the bedroom with the knife in her hand. There was nothing that could stop her now. When she returned to the bedroom, Evelyn's eyes were fixed on Lauren, her best friend, the one she had trusted the most. She no longer felt intimacy but only saw betrayal. Without hesitation, she advanced on Lauren, knife in hand raised high. The blade stabbed straight into Lauren's chest, the sound of it piercing the quiet space, creating a rupture of all previous emotions. Blood gushed out quickly, spreading across the bed, staining the white sheets red. Evelyn continued to stab hard, each stab like a vent, like a way to tear away all the pain inside her. No one could stop her now. Lauren struggled, but her life was quickly extinguished by the endless rage of her best friend. Jacob stood still, unable to believe his eyes. Horror filled his face. He could not intervene, could not understand that the wife he had loved had turned into someone else, with unprecedented brutality. Somehow, Evelyn had crossed the threshold of human existence, consumed by a rage that had no end. Lauren fell, her body crumpled in a pool of blood. There was no movement, only a cold corpse lying in the middle of a room that had once been a symbol of warmth, now covered in blood and the remnants of the frenzy. Evelyn stood there, gasping for breath, the knife still clutched in her hand. Blood covered her hands, staining her dress. Beads of sweat rolled down her forehead, and her eyes grew hollow. She felt the devastation she had caused, but she felt no regret. She just stood there, looking down at Lauren's lifeless body, knowing that everything had changed forever. The room fell into absolute silence. It was over, but Evelyn felt no peace. She had lost everything: her husband, her best friend, and herself. The emotions that flooded her drowned everything out, leaving nothing but emptiness and hopelessness. Evelyn finally let go of the knife. The blade fell to the floor, echoing in the silence. She had nothing to hold on to, no hope. Everything was over now, but the only thing left was an unending pain, and the fact that she had lost everything in a moment that could never be returned. Jacob Carter was in complete shock at what had just happened. He couldn't believe that the wife he loved, the gentle woman he had known for so many years, could commit such a terrible act of violence. Everything had happened so fast, and the horror before his eyes had left him paralyzed. His breathing was labored, his eyes staring at Lauren's lifeless body on the floor. The pool of blood that spread across the room is clear evidence of the tragedy that had just occurred. Jacob tried to stammer out a few words, but couldn't find the words to describe the horror he felt. His mind was spinning, trying to understand why things had happened this way. After realizing the situation was out of control, Jacob quickly ran to the phone, his hand shaking as he dialed the emergency number to call the police. However, in the meantime, Evelyn, the wife he thought he knew best, had left the house. In a state of panic, Evelyn ran from the house with her hands covered in blood, her mind in turmoil, and with no idea where she was going. When police arrived at the scene, they were greeted by a violent scene. Lauren Bishop lay motionless on the bedroom floor, her body covered in deep stab wounds. Investigators quickly determined that this was a targeted murder, with the fatal wounds on the victim's body indicating the ruthlessness of the perpetrator. Blood was everywhere, staining the entire room red, and this made the first investigators on the scene unable to help but shudder at the brutality of the case. Jacob Carter, Evelyn Harper's husband, was the only witness left at the scene. When officers approached, he was still in a state of shock, unable to explain what had happened. He just stood there, horrified by what he had just witnessed. Jacob was taken to the station to be interviewed, but the initial investigation from him did not provide enough clear information about the events that led to Lauren's death. Immediately after examining the scene, the police quickly began searching for Evelyn Harper, who had fled the scene. With her state of panic and instability, the search for Evelyn became urgent. Her escape also raised many questions for the police about the motive for the case. Shortly after, the police arrested Evelyn as she tried to leave Austin, still in a state of panic and disorientation. While Evelyn was taken to the police station for questioning, the investigation team conducted a more in-depth investigation into the relationship between the three people involved. Through analyzing text messages and phone calls from Lauren and Jacob, the police discovered that Jacob and Lauren had been having an affair for months without Evelyn. This evidence indicated that this murder was not simply a random attack out of anger, but the result of a complex relationship that was torn apart by betrayal. Evelyn and Jacob's close relatives were also interviewed to shed more light on their lives before the murder. None of them noticed any signs of an affair, which added to the sense of surprise and confusion as the whole thing came to light. The police continued to collect evidence from the scene and other related places, trying to piece together the clues to form a complete picture of this horrific murder. The investigation results showed that the incident was not simply a momentary anger, but was probably long-simmering jealousy and betrayal. After being arrested, Evelyn Harper quickly confessed to the whole thing. In a state of mental exhaustion, she explained that the feeling of betrayal and the pain was so great that she lost control and killed Lauren in a fit. She did not deny anything, but honestly recounted the chain of events that led to this tragedy. Evelyn said that for weeks she had been suspicious of the relationship between her husband, Jacob Carter, and her best friend, Lauren Bishop. The signs were unusual, but she still believed that she might be overthinking things. However, on November 18, 2022, when she came home earlier than usual and witnessed the betrayal of both men, everything inside her collapsed. In that moment of shock, Evelyn felt as if all her trust, love, and loyalty had vanished. She couldn't control her emotions and ran down to the kitchen, unconsciously grabbing a knife. When she returned to the bedroom, she could not stop herself from attacking Lauren, stabbing her best friend multiple times. Evelyn admitted that she could not remember the exact number of times, but when she woke up from her hysterics, Lauren was lying in a pool of blood. Jacob Carter, after witnessing the incident, was completely shocked and could not believe what had just happened. He tried to stop Evelyn, but it was too late. Evelyn ran away from home in a panic, not knowing where she was going or what to do. Evelyn explained to the police that in that moment, the feeling of betrayal pushed her to the edge that she could not control. Although she knew that she had gone too far and the consequences would be extremely serious, Evelyn could not stop. Her confession was completely consistent with the evidence at the scene, confirming that this was a murder committed in a fit of rage. When arrested, Evelyn was completely honest in facing the consequences of her actions. However, regret and pain cannot erase what happened. Evelyn admits that if she could turn back time, she would not have let her anger control her to the point of leading to such a tragedy. The police quickly moved in and collected vital evidence at the scene. Blood stains scattered throughout the room, along with a knife still stained with blood, became key pieces of evidence. Forensic analysis confirmed Evelyn Harper's fingerprints on the murder weapon, proving that she was the one who directly carried out the brutal attack that led to Lauren Bishop's death. Jacob Carter's testimony was also recorded by the police with many complex details. Jacob admitted to having an affair with Lauren, but asserted that he never thought things would go this far. He was completely shocked and helpless when he witnessed Evelyn attack him. Despite further investigation into Jacob's role in the incident, police found no evidence that he participated or directly assisted in the murder. His involvement revolved around the affair that sparked the tragedy. With undeniable evidence from the scene and the results of the investigation, Evelyn Harper was charged with second-degree murder. Meanwhile, Jacob Carter, although not facing criminal charges, was the focus of public criticism when the incident was exposing the betrayal that led to this tragic event. Evelyn Harper finally faced the harshest sentence. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, locked up for the rest of her life for a crime she committed in a fit of uncontrollable rage. The murder shocked the Austin, Texas community, leaving many unable to believe that a woman like Evelyn could go to such extremes. Betrayal and rage created an indelible tragedy. Evelyn Harper's story became a costly warning about the destructive power of anger and betrayal and the unpredictable consequences when love and trust are broken. The pain extends beyond the person who lost their lives to the families and friends of the victims, leaving a deep mark on everyone's mind. This is a painful lesson, reminding that uncontrolled negative emotions can lead to devastating consequences.